Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Career Coaches Insight webinar, Rediscover Your Career Spark with special guest Markel Morris. My name is Amy Rueda, and I serve as Senior Executive Director for Professional Programs and Services and your host for today's webinar. I want to take this opportunity to thank our Alumni Association sustaining donors. It is with your help that we're able to strengthen the Bruin community with career programs like this. For some general housekeeping, we will have time at the end of our program for Q&A with our speaker. So please use the Q&A function below to submit your questions. We will be recording this event and we'll send out the recording when it is available. Now to start our program. I am so excited to introduce Markel. Markel is a graduate of UC Santa Barbara with a bachelor's degree in sociology, a master's degree in counseling from the University of San Diego, is national certified counselor, board certified telemed health provider, and certified in Myers-Briggs. She empowers her clients from a place of possibility and abundance. She has spent her award-winning career motivating and guiding people in search of direction and advancement, and is an expert in career management. She's helped thousands of clients over her 20 plus years as a career coach, successfully helping them reimagine their career and build a meaningful life. She helps clients craft an inspiring vision for their careers, identify the right career moves to make, establish a personal branding strategy, and launch an effective job search. In addition to her one-on-one career coaching and counseling work, Markel is an associate member at Santa Monica College and an adjunct career counselor at Cypress College in California. Markel, we are so excited to have you here. And with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I sound so amazing. Thank you, Amy. I'm going to go ahead and get to this. And can you see the presentation? Everything's good? All right, so thank you so much, Amy, for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here. I've been a volunteer for Alumni Career UCLA Alumni Career Services for many years, in addition to having worked at UCLA Career Services. And as you stated, the work that I do really is driven by my desire to inspire and encourage and motivate people to go after their careers, their career goals with confidence. And over the course of my career, I've worked with clients in all stages of their careers, early career professionals who are seeking to establish a career direction, mid-career professionals who are at a crossroads, wondering what to do next, or is this all there is for me in my career? And I especially enjoy working with people who have faced career disruption or trauma. Maybe they've experienced a toxic work environment, maybe they've been laid off, or they faced a major life event that has caused them to redirect their career, and perhaps they're re-entering the job market. So those are different scenarios that my clients are bringing to the equation, but what they are all seeking is hope and career direction, and that is what I aim to provide. Some of you might be in similar situations and you're seeking a way forward. And so what I'm going to do through the webinars, I'm going to guide you through some concepts and some actions and resources to help you rediscover your own career spark. So there oftentimes people wonder, is it time for a change? I know I've been in circumstances throughout my career where I felt like I wanted to make a change, but I wasn't really sure if the timing was right. So some of these signs might resonate with you. So you might be in a place now where you're having difficulty focusing. I mean, you're just the work that you're doing feels like maybe a slog. You're maybe not as productive as you want to be or as you used to be. Your creativity has diminished. And then in some situations, all of that might be happening, but you're also maybe experiencing physical symptoms that don't have any seeming cause. And maybe overall you're just kind of going through the motions. And some of you are on the webinar probably can relate to some of these. And these are some of the signs and indicators of burnout. And commonly when people are experiencing these signs, the first thing that they say that they're going to do is, I need to get another job, or maybe they want to change industries. And that may or may not be the case. Maybe there's something that can be adjusted without having to overhaul your entire career. You may already have launched into a job search, or maybe you're in therapy, because people often internalize work adjustment issues thinking there's something wrong with them, that they're the problem and not the environment that they're in. So when you're experiencing, excuse me, these signs of burnout, these signals that are telling you maybe there's something that I need to attend to, it's important, if you're, to the extent that you're able, perhaps to slow down just a bit, maybe take a step back and reevaluate your career direction. And I'll show you how to do that. I'll talk with you about how to do that. So consider how you got here, and how did you end up in the place where you're at right now? Oftentimes, if you think about when you get on how you got onto your career path, you might have gotten onto your career path in a way that's very common for people. Traditionally, people just kind of fall into a career based on opportunities that presented themselves. And usually at the start of a career, there's very little focus on long-term fulfillment. And for a while, that's fine, right? When you traditionally, if you are, went through the traditional college path, by the time you got to graduation, maybe you're somewhere between 21 and 23 years old. And what you're thinking about at that point is just trying to get some return on investment for your degree, get established onto a career path, start making a little bit of money, and, kind of moving forward from there. And that's what you're thinking about, but not so much about the long-term fulfillment. It's really difficult at that stage if you're even aware that it's something to be concerned about. So we we think that we're going to get on a path and we're going to stick with that path for many years, many decades, and that's just not the way that it works any longer. But career satisfaction is possible at any stage in your career, and you can intentionally and proactively pursue that by tuning in with how you want to experience work and what you want to do, and how to get there. So how do you really move forward into rediscovering your career spark? I want to offer you this, maybe a new way of thinking about it. What if you viewed changing careers as career realignment? How might that change your mindset and how you approach this stage that you're in? Perhaps your focus then would shift up to figuring out what's working for you and how you can get more of that. Or perhaps you might determine what's not working for you so you can do less of it. Of course, you might focus on figuring out what matters to you, and perhaps how you want to make an impact and make a contribution at this point in your career. And then the reality is that you probably already have the knowledge, skills, and abilities you need, but it's a matter of defining what you really want and using the right mindset tools to get you there. The the techniques that I'm going to share with you are going to help you to identify your strengths and clarify your goals and chart a realistic path forward. I'm going to talk with you about ways to stand out and get noticed through your community. Perhaps you are aware that you should be doing some kind of networking or relationship building, but maybe you haven't done much of that. or it's been a long time. So we'll talk about how you can get started with that or refine your efforts as far as that's concerned. And then some tools that will help you to adapt to change, so that you can still prioritize what matters most for you and navigate your career through the ups and downs that are inevitable, finding balance, overcoming burnout, and reigniting your passion for the work that you do. So let's think about this question, this statement. When you know your why, your what has more meaning. So as you are rediscovering your career spark, I encourage you to start with your why. And this is really about clarifying your deeper purpose, which will give you a sense of direction and motivation and fulfillment to the career choices, the jobs that you do, the tasks that you carry out, and the roles that you inhabit. So your why is really about looking at your core values, your motivations, and your overall sense of purpose. So perhaps a why could be, as an example, wanting to help people, creating beauty or solving complex problems, maybe advocating for social justice. Those are examples. And then your what is going to be your specific career path, the daily work that you do and your professional goals. So perhaps, being a marketing director or a software engineer, a therapist, or an entrepreneur. And it's important to consider why. And why you're doing things, because it matters. Because knowing why you're doing something will help you to feel less directionless. It'll give you a sense of direction. It'll be energizing for you. It'll help you to feel more fulfilled. And because even if you're successful on the outside and people, are recognizing your accomplishments, if you've lost sense of how this connects with something that's meaningful and purposeful for you, you're going to feel fatigue over time. Perhaps you might experience imposter syndrome, and you may lack some confidence in the work that you're doing. So a clear why will help you to choose roles and opportunities that align with what really matters most to you. You're more likely to stay motivated during challenges and transitions, and overall have a greater sense of satisfaction and contribution in your work. So the clients that I work with are experiencing usually significant, career and life challenges, and I have as well. And I can tell you that during those times, revisiting why I do the work that I do made all the difference for me, and it makes all the difference for the clients that I work with. So we shift from carrying out a set of tasks to really thinking a little bit bigger and solving problems. And let's talk about that a little bit more. So how do you go about defining what your why? What is it? So the common approach when a person, a job seeker, professional wants to make a career change is to launch directly into a job search. And they start looking through Indeed or LinkedIn, any number of those resources, and they're searching through job titles. And they can't quite find what they are looking for. So I would encourage you to go beyond job titles. There's a place for them, but initially go beyond the job titles and identify challenges or causes that you want to be involved in solving. Think about the impact and the contribution that you want to make to society so that you can define what work means for you. So rather than trying to fit yourself into a box of job tasks or a box of certain job descriptions, you are taking control of your experience, and you are assigning meaning to the work that you're doing. And consider that every problem in the world requires an interdisciplinary solution. So all jobs can be purposeful. Explore the problems you want to solve and see where that leads you. So here are some examples that I want to give you to see the contrast. So perhaps, and these are common among the clients that I work with, I want to be a therapist. Okay, so when you think about becoming a therapist and who's in career transition, well, what else can you do? Well, oftentimes they think about working in different settings. rather than how else they might be able to utilize their skills because they've boxed themselves into a job title. But what if we defined it a little bit differently? The purpose is that I want to improve access to culturally competent mental health for all. So then it becomes a little bit different. Therapist becomes just one of the ways that a person could do that. Someone could be involved in policy. Maybe they could be a marketing director for a nonprofit mental health organization. Maybe they could work in fund management that supports nonprofits. Then it opens up many, many more possibilities. So we kind of flip that, right? So I'm a career counselor. What can I do? I can work with high school students, college students, established professionals, and I might have an industry focus. What if I flipped that and said that my purpose is ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages? Then career counselor becomes one of many, many, many different careers or jobs that I could do that support that. So that's the first step, is really to define what is your why. Thinking about the real world problems that you might want to be a part of solving, causes that matter to you, and how you want to make an impact. You can come up with your own list of world problems, or the United Nations has a list of 17 sustainable goals that pretty much covers every world problem. You can take a look at that list and identify the ones that resonate most with you as a starting point. So this is something that I do with my clients as we get started in the career counseling and coaching process. So then that's really great and lofty, considering what is your why, the big picture of why you want to do what you're doing. And then the other thing that we want to take into consideration is really looking at what energizes you at work. What factors are going to contribute to your overall job satisfaction, and how do these factors align and support your values, your needs, and your work preferences? One of the activities that I do with my clients is an at your best activity. And so, in that, and I would encourage you to do this, you think about maybe three or so separate experiences in your career where you felt you were at your best. And think about times when you felt like you were in flow, or you accomplished something that was significant to you. Perhaps you felt that you were being put to good use, or you overcame big challenges. Maybe you led your team or yourself out of a crisis. But think about some of those experiences, and you can write those experiences down and then go back and review those stories, and look to see what was happening during those experiences. What were you doing? What roles did you inhabit? What tasks were you working on? What was the meaning and purpose of in those experiences? What knowledge, skills, abilities, personal characteristics do you have that enabled you to perform at your best? What knowledge, skills, and abilities and personal characteristics did you develop in those experiences? And how do you feel about it as you're reflecting on it? And that is a really powerful activity to do to help you to identify what energizes you at work. And in addition to this, it may be very useful and helpful for you to then share those experiences with other people who can also give you feedback. When I ask my clients to do this, 100% don't want to do it. But then they trust me, they trust the process, and then they do it. When we come back and talk about it, they're so glad that they did. I recently did this with a group, and they called it the activity an imposter syndrome killer. So not only was it something that boosted their confidence, it also gave them some really useful insight into what energizes them at work. And other utilities for an activity like this is that it also can give you content that you might use in your LinkedIn profile, in your cover letter, resume, and some things to discuss while you are building those relationships that are going to be very important to you, as well as interviewing. So it's got a lot of utility throughout this transition process. And you might also be wondering, How can I adjust my day to day? In many instances, you might be the person who is the person to get things done. And so you start off doing a job, and then all of a sudden there's this little creep that happens in your job, and all of a sudden you're doing all of these different tasks. So that you start to wonder, am I really doing the work that I'm energized by doing? I'm capable of doing all of these things, but I'm not sure if how interested I am doing continuing to do these things. And so every day, so an activity that you can do every day at work for 1 week, maybe inventory what you do. Keep track of your daily routine, including conversations you have, who you're interacting with, meetings that you're having. Just kind of keep track of everything. And then at the end of that 5 days, go back and evaluate what's going on, what happened during that week. Maybe you want to put those items into categories related to preferences. So these are things that I really enjoy doing. I want to do more of these. These things I'm kind of neutral on. I could take them or leave them. And then these things that I've been doing, I don't want to do these anymore. And that will give you some really great insight into what energizes you at work as well. And it will also help you to perhaps identify some goals, some things that you want to work on to get greater alignment and satisfaction in the day-to-day work, or what you might want to carry with you if you're looking at changing jobs or industries altogether. And then we want to look at what matters most. So, what matters most to you now? This is where you want to really take a look at your needs, defining what you need financially, maybe defining what you need psychologically, relationally, and health wise. And getting some insight into those specific needs will also help you to clarify some goals that you have. So, again, you want your career. We spend so much time working in our career. We want our career to be supportive of our lifestyle and not take away from it. And so clarifying then your goals around all of these things. What do you want to accomplish in your life financially, psychologically, relationally, and health-wise? And where does your career fit within that? How can your career support those goals that you have? It's also very, very important, and I refer to these as work preferences and practical matters and practical needs, because we do have practical needs. So it's really great to say, I want a career that I'm passionate about, and maybe not consider the finances, but for anybody who's not working, or anyone who's worked for even a short period of time, you begin to realize that if the money's not there, the satisfaction can be lessened, right? And so it's very important to take into consideration those factors. So additionally, when you're looking at your preferences as it relates to work, you also want to consider, some geographical preferences. So maybe the dream job that you have is in Nebraska, and no, nothing against Nebraska, but it's in Nebraska, but you are a Los Angeles city person. You want to be in an environment like that, similar to that, so that your dream job is going to be in an environment that you identify. Maybe there's a certain type of community you want to be a part of. Maybe you are interested in certain activities, social activities, so you want that to be in your geographical location. So I'm talking about the best case scenario, but you want to identify what this looks like for you so you have a target to work towards. Perhaps you have certain working conditions that you prefer. Now, more than ever, people want to work remotely. Maybe they want to have a hybrid schedule. They have some preferences around that. So, what are those working conditions that are your preference? And then, what type of people do you want to be around? So, if you're going to be spending 8 to 10 hours of work every day, what kind of people do you want to be around? What would your ideal coworkers? What kind of characteristics would they have? What kind of person do you want to be for your boss, clients that you want to work with, collaborators? Get some clarity around that. And then when you're exploring possibilities, then that can give you some insight or some criteria to assess different work cultures and work environments that might be most suitable for you. And then as far as looking at your needs here, salary and benefits. Again, we have realistic financial needs. So what are your baseline financial needs? Be clear about what that is. And then what might be a financial situation that would allow you to have a little bit of margin and space in your life. And then what would be that, income target that is like, if I could get here, then like I'm just like a rock star, what have you, so that you have some, again, criteria for determining what jobs, specific jobs you might want to pursue. You also want to give some thought to perks and benefits and level of responsibility preferences. So oftentimes people who are really good at their job get promoted and end up doing work that they may not have as much interest in doing. So get some clarity about what role level of responsibility that you prefer. Is there there's a okay, I see that there's a question there. I want to pause right there just to see if there are any questions. Amy, is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you want me to just answer the question that's here or
Sure, let
open
me,
up?
yeah, I'll read it off. So what if you are on track and have the purpose and know the why, but you aren't getting hired in the field you want to be in?
That is an excellent question. And I think as we go through, I can answer that a little bit more definitively. But without knowing anything else and just answering that question, I would want to know a little bit more about how you're approaching your job search. And I would also, which would include maybe reviewing your personal branding. So reviewing cover letters, resumes, LinkedIn profiles, and really just how you're approaching your job search. And in some cases, it could be that everything is just kind of buttoned up. And it's a matter of just connecting at the right time with the right opportunity, and that can be unpredictable. So in a little bit, I'll talk a little more about how to stay motivated when the process takes a little bit longer than you might expect or want. Are there any other questions? No, we're good? Okay. So I've talked and given you kind of an overview of purpose, how to identify purpose, and how to get clear about what energizes you at work, and how to get clarity about practical matters, what matters to you the most. So, what do you do with all of this? How do you kind of bring the pieces together? So, this is an illustration that can help you. So, what as you go through those, looking at those three key areas, what possibilities do you see when they come together? Look at the intersection of your interests and passions, your knowledge and skills, your personality and natural strengths. What do you see in the intersection of those different factors? And then write down everything that you can think of. When I'm working with my clients one-on-one, or when I'm teaching in my classes, when we do this, as we're going through and looking at those areas, people are beginning to see possibilities and they're beginning to generate some ideas. So, what are those for you? And you can even ask family members, friends, and colleagues. If you're working with a career counselor or coach, certainly there's going to be a discussion around that. And also think about what options you're curious about. What this is an opportunity for you to really explore the possibilities. So, what are you curious to learn more about? Maybe you don't have a specific job or role, but maybe you're interested in what people do in a particular industry. And then you can put that on your list. You don't need a whole bunch of options. If you have one or two to start with, that's a good start. And then you can let that, your curiosity and the insight, guide your exploration. And you can, I want to show you this. So here is a series of questions that you can have answer to help you to formulate and visualize your ideal career. So what you can get as detailed as what your days might look like, who you're working with, what you're working on, projects, bigger picture problems that you're solving, what are you accomplishing, and what opportunities are you attracting in your career. So you can, when I'm working with my clients, we do this, and I also have a guided reflection activity that we do that helps them to really just kind of formulate the big picture of their ideal career, as well as some industries or career roles that they might be interested in exploring further. So you've done all this foundation work to get some clarity about your next steps. How do you move forward? So as you're starting to formulate ideas about your career direction, where do you go from here? So this is where you are kind of bridging, this vision that's forming with the realities of what is out there in the job market. So you're exploring options, looking at industries, work settings, really looking at where can you do purposeful work. And this career exploration gives you a reality check, and it can give you exposure to additional options that you might not have been aware of previously. And this can also help you with establishing and resurrecting maybe some of those personal relationships that are going to be so valuable to you. Some resources that are very helpful in this, and we'll talk more about this, but online are the Occupational Outlook Handbook, the ONET Online, My Next Move, and Career One Stop. And I can send this to you, and I'll give you a way to contact me to get these resources. So a big part of, rediscovering your career spark and really connecting with meaningful opportunities is networking, if you will. But I like to really refer to it as relationship building, because networking seems kind of transactional. And a part of relationship building certainly can be transactional. But this is something that you want to focus on because it gives you professional visibility, and it enhances your social capital, all of what is going to be very vital, not only into finding direction, but also to getting in the flow of opportunity and attracting job possibilities that are going to be aligned with the work that you want to do. And this is a real essential part of not only a job search, but career management. And it doesn't have to take a lot of time, in just a few minutes every day, but with consistency, you can put yourself in a position to attract job possibilities. And the kind of people that you want in your network are, I've listed here. We often will say, I need a mentor. And that's really great. But really, you want a career success team. You want a group of people who play a part in your career success, and they might address these different needs that you might have throughout your career. And if you're working, there are already built-in opportunities for you to meet people or to have conversations with people. So internal opportunities. So in your company or organization, there are going to be, different types of meetings that you could be a part of. And there's always that few minutes before a meeting where you can chit chat and get to know one another, or you could be more intentional through informational interviews. And again, go outside of your functional area and maybe sit down and have a conversation with someone in a different functional area. You may not want to do their job, but you might want to get insight into how their job fits into the bigger picture. And through that, you will get to know someone, why they work at that company, why they chose that job, and that can give you some basis for forming a relationship, and maybe they have some insight that will be useful to you in your career advancement and career change. And then there are many external opportunities that can be beneficial to you in forming professional relationships, leveraging those relationships. And I'm a huge supporter of all of these. I've been involved with my professional association from the beginning of my career at the local level, county, city, state, and now national level. And I'm a big believer in engaged in your professional community. And you can start off by, you might already be doing these things, and you can just start off by listing people that you already know who might be valuable to you in your network. And you might be doing some of those things already, but perhaps as you're thinking about this, there are additional steps that you could take. And then I want to pause here to see if there are any questions. I see a couple in the Q&A. Yes, yes. I will give you a way to get the slides and the resources for sure. So we've gone to this point, and I have just a few minutes, and we'll wrap up and get to the Q&A, the formal Q&A part. Oh, someone raised their hand. Are they able to go off mute to answer their question? Ask their question? I'm not sure if I have the controls. Amy, are they able to ask a question?
I'm checking on that right now.
Oh, okay. If not, we'll get it to the Q&A. Oh,
David, you should be good to go.
okay. All right, here we go. Okay, so I think the questions that are coming up in the chat we're going to get to in this next session. So career transitions have a lot of moving pieces. We are in a place now in the labor market and the economy, just sort of in this space in life where there's a lot of uncertainty. We feel, there are economic factors, social factors, global factors, environmental factors that we're all trying to navigate our lives within, as well as our careers within. And it can feel very scary and overwhelming in this. So trying to be intentional about managing your career and finding your why and finding the right opportunities can be very, very daunting. And so how do you stay motivated? How do you stay encouraged? It's in many ways, it's sort of like some mind tricks that we have to play, right? But there are some intentional things that you can do, areas to focus on to help you to have a sense of control and a sense of calm and ease in this process. One of the challenges that often people encounter is being consistent and having patience when the process is a little bit ambiguous or unfolds a little bit differently than they had anticipated or they want and need. And so how do you do that? So I'm a big fan of writing and journaling. And so journaling is a great outlet for what you're experiencing inside to get out and put it on paper and have a way to just express and process. And in your journaling, you might also take a moment every day to tune into what you're grateful for. And it may be very difficult at certain times, and I can certainly relate to this, to find something that you're grateful for, but I definitely encourage you to try to do it. And as you begin focusing on what you're grateful for, the things that are working well, that are going well, you will begin to notice more of that, and you'll begin to attract more, because your brain doesn't know all the outside stuff that's going on. Your brain only knows what you tell it about all the outside stuff that's going on. So you do have, some control over that. And another thing that I think is really important is cultivating a positive environment, and not just your physical space, but your digital space and the people that you are in community with. So just as an example, I was thinking about something yesterday and I'm like, oh gosh, I really need to, focus on this more. And one of my friends who had no idea I was thinking about this sent me a reel on Instagram that spoke directly into that. So the people that you surround yourself with can also be encouragers to you in this. And I'm going to jump to self-care because I think this is important and often overlooked. And this doesn't have to be big things. This could be taking 5 minutes a day to just go outside and get some fresh air. You don't have to run a marathon. You could just be outside and enjoy the environment. If you're in Los Angeles, we have beautiful weather. It's a little warm, but we have beautiful sunny weather right now. And drink water. And I don't want to be, facetious or funny about that, but our body needs water. water. And so drinking water helps us to regulate our emotions. And then by all means, please celebrate your successes, large and small, because again, we're living in really interesting times. We're trying to navigate our careers with a lot of volatility and uncertainty. And we need to celebrate that we are taking steps on our own behalf, and we need to recognize those actions that we are taking on an ongoing basis. And that leads to my question for you is to think about your next steps and what is one small action you could take this week to rediscover your career spark. And I have a quote that I often will point to that is very encouraging to me is start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. It's by Arthur Ashe. And when I'm faced with circumstances that feel really overwhelming to me, I ground myself, but by reminding myself that I've already have the knowledge, skills, and abilities that I need to act on my own behalf. So I'm going to start where I'm at. I'm going to use what I already have, and I'm going to do what I can. And with that, I will leave you with the resources. If you click the or look at the record the QR code, it'll take you to an online form and you can request the resources and I will send those to you by the end of the week. And then if you'd like to connect with me, this is how you can connect with me, and then we'll go into our Q&A.
Wonderful. While
I'll
we
put this up.
transition, while we transition
Okay.
to the Q&A portion with Markel, please take a few short minutes to fill out our program survey. The information you provide will help us determine future programs from our Career Coaches Network. If you have any questions for Markel, please submit them via the Q&A function. We have a couple. I'm going to combine a couple that have the same theme. So what happens even if you know your purpose, you know your passion, but it feels like such a scary time to job hunt given this market and how quickly jobs are disappearing?
Mm, that's a that I don't I want to honor that it's very difficult, and jobs are disappearing, and I would really think about getting some clarity into other factors and perhaps leveraging your that matter to you and leveraging your network or establishing your network to see other ways that people are making a living, because the whole entire world is in this situation and there are people who are working, there are people who are getting jobs, and they might be doing work that you may be unaware of. And this is where I think the value in your community could be very helpful to you. And I know that, and this hasn't changed that I've seen maybe more than ever. Oftentimes the jobs and the best jobs are not what people find on job boards. They're what people find through their network and through their relationships. And so I have found, and I've seen this consistently over the course of my career, that this is true, that our relationships, our professional relationships, and not just those, I would say getting visibility. How about this? Getting visibility, professional visibility, which includes your relationships, will enable you to have meaningful work consistently. I hope that answer. That's a hard question to answer in this forum, but that's my initial response.
Understandable. This is a question that was submitted earlier in the week. What do you do when you find that you have incredibly low motivation?
So I would have to know what that really means for that, or looks like for that person. And I think getting back to your why and what work really means to you, and then what is it that you're trying to solve for in your life, in your career, that is out of alignment. So all of what I kind of front-ended the talk with is identifying what is out of alignment for you. So when you can identify what's out of alignment, then you can address it. So lack of motivation can come from many different factors, many different reasons, and for many different reasons in your life. For example, there have been times when I was not feeling great, significantly motivated because I was doing the right job in the wrong place. There were times in my career where I lacked motivation because I experienced significant life altering challenges, and I was just trying to cope with life and keep things going. And so I wasn't terribly motivated about the work that I was doing. And so what is, causing the lack of motivation, identifying what that is by using some of those practices that I shared with you.
Thank you. Kind of along the same theme, how can you reconnect with a sense of purpose or direction when everything feels numb and no path feels right?
So and we didn't go too much into depth with that. So again, I'm a professional in this area of career development, but I'm also a human being. I'm a person too. And so I'm going to this, it's in my personal bio on my website, but I experienced major life altering circumstances related to I lost someone that was very close to me, actually several people in a short amount of time, and I faced a brain tumor diagnosis, and I'm a brain tumor survivor. And I had to manage my career. I had to re-enter the job market and navigate my career through in the midst of all of this. So aside from everything else that was going on in the world, my personal life was destroyed. And I had to figure it out. So I am sharing with you based off of, of course, there's theoretical foundation, but these are the things that I did to help myself recapture a sense of purpose in my life and my career. And these are the practices that I guide my clients through to recapture a sense of purpose in their lives and their career. And I want to tell you that it sounds like a lot, but you don't have to spend years on this. If you could allow yourself even just a few days to look at these factors, look at the problems in the world that you might want to solve. Look at that list that I referred to, the UN 17 Sustainable Goals. Look at the list and pick out one or two or three that resonate with you. Take some time to think about what energizes you at work. Do that activity. You can do that in a day. And then looking at the practical matters, what really do you want to get out of work? What matters to you most, from your career values to where you want to work? If you could just even give yourself 5 days on your own to really think about those things, you would be amazed at what kind of clarity would come to you by intentionally focusing on it, even for a short amount of time. So it doesn't have to be a huge lift that takes 2 years to figure out.
Awesome. I love this question that came up. What advice would you have if someone is having trouble making the leap to a different career path because they are worried about the social status, prestige they could lose?
That's a hard one. And that certainly is something that, a person would need to work through. And actually, I was just talking with my students about this last night. In class, we were talking about purpose and the relative value of certain jobs. And so again, I would flip it. So rather than focusing on jobs and then trying to work up from there, focus on the meaningfulness and the impact of the work that you do. Because the prestige that you might be seeking is going to come from how you articulate the impact of what you do. So, for example, I years ago I was doing a workshop. It was on like a resume workshop for a group of professionals, and there was someone in the group who was did public works. So public works was cleaning public bathrooms and public spaces, and the person was feeling challenged and discouraged by having to come up with something on the resume. And so I said, okay, I can appreciate that, but let's look at it from a different perspective. If you didn't do your job, what would happen? oh, well, people they wouldn't be safe, it would be unclean, it would be unhygienic, all of these different things. I'm like, so there is value to what you do, because if you don't do it, it's going to be harming other people. So think about the value of the role that you have. How does it make someone else's life easier? How is it contributing to your own life goals or needs? So as opposed to just looking at jobs, because there are certain jobs in America that have a lack prestige that are highly prestigious in other countries. So prestige is really defined by us, and you have the power to determine the value of the work that you do and communicate that to others.
Thank you. This next question, I have a feeling many people are also wondering. you
Mhm.
talk you talked about discovering your why, but
Mhm.
what if you have different and several different whys and interests across multiple fields? How do you
Mhm.
how do you choose a path to start with, and when they all feel meaningful in different ways?
Yes, that is great. This is like encapsulates my clients perfectly. So my encouragement to you would be to take some time to define the life that you want, because all of your whys and all the jobs are not going to support the life that you want. So, first, start off with what is the life that you want? And then, as you're looking at your whys, and this was interesting, my students actually came up with this. They had this aha moment when they looked at what initially looked like whys that were not connected. They said, actually, all of these fit together in some way. So there's a through line to those problems, those big problems that we want to solve in the world. But first and foremost, I think if this is the struggle that you have, really get some clarity about the lifestyle that you want, and then kind of look at the other areas, the whys, the practical matters, and et cetera that I talked about. And then it may be that you are and this is very useful to think about, instead of thinking about the one thing that you're going to do to commit for the rest of your life and your career, what do you want to do next?
Excellent. Here's another one that I think will resonate with many. How to get unstuck in your career when you feel stagnant.
Well, I think we talked about this. I'm not sure if I can answer it really differently, but I would go back and reiterate, why are you feeling stagnant? Like, what are you solving for? So what is it, because the work that you're doing just is no longer of interest to you, like the actual day-to-day work tasks? Is it because the people around you just don't inspire you, you don't like them? And I don't know, is it because you have personal interests and goals and your career is not supporting those? Get some clarity about what's out of alignment first. And so again, going back and doing a job audit type activity can help get you some insight. Doing some guided journaling activities can help you to get some insight into what is actually out of alignment for you. And, for some people, being stagnant in a career, actually, it may not be a bad thing. Maybe you have a lot of other things going on, and right now your job is just kind of like a means to an end and utility while you work out some other things. I don't know you, but this question is, really about finding what's out of alignment and then going from there.
Excellent. This next question is specialized in one industry, but I think is felt universally. I am
Mhm.
a computer programmer in my early 50s. I feel like I might be too old to continue working in the tech industry where things are continuing to change rapidly, such as AI, and younger and cheaper workers might have an advantage. Should I try to keep up with all the latest technologies, or should I try and do something else?
Well, that is a question that you're going to have to answer for yourself. But how do you approach this scenario? And yes, this is a very common scenario. So I'm trying not to sound like a broken record, but maybe you want to flip this. So and also I two things. One, flip how you're looking at this, how you're viewing the scenario, but also look at the strengths that you are bringing to this equation. And so you're not too old to change career direction. You're not too old to have a meaningful career. It just may look different than it has been, and it may look different than what you imagined it would be for you, because things changed, and that's really the truth. Things have changed, and so again, I would encourage you to, like, computer programming is a job that sits in a lot of it's not just the tech industry, it's a technical job, but computer programming sits in many different industries. It sits in education and healthcare. So really looking again at the bigger problems that the world needs solving. There's interdisciplinary approaches that need to happen to solve the big problems that the world has. So as someone in your early 50s, what matters to you in the world? And how might you be able to use your knowledge, skills, and abilities to be a part of solving those problems? And I have to tell you this, my mom, she's much older now, but when my mom was in her early 50s, she made a career change. She went back to college, she got an MBA, and she changed careers. And she went from a manager in a healthcare department to information systems project manager. And so she did that. My dad is in his 80s. And last year, my dad started a podcast. So obviously he's not trying to make a living out of it, but he does have merch, and he does have a technical team that supports him in that. So those are just examples of how it's not too late for you to pursue different career directions, and also to pursue interests that can enrich your life overall.
That is wonderful. Markel, you have been such a tremendous resource for us this afternoon. That's all the time we have for questions. Please, everyone, join me in thanking Markel for being with us here today. And if you haven't completed the program feedback survey, you will receive a prompt to do so once the webinar ends. We will also include in the chat a link to RSVP to our next Career Coaches Insights webinar, Mastering LinkedIn, Building Your Personal Brand and Unlocking Networking Opportunities with Armin Kulikayan. If you're an experienced professional considering new career opportunities, feel free to join us on July 9th for a second act webinar panel, including Markel, Refresh, Refocus, and Chart What's Next. Resume Insights for Experienced Professionals. Please register today, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Markel, and go Bruins.
Thank you.